Hey guys, it's Joel with Punishers Paintball. Today we are doing another troubleshooting video. We have the Dye DSR Plus here at Punishers, and we are going to go over common issues that you're going to find with the DSR Plus and touch on a few solutions of those problems. So if you guys like this video, please subscribe and like the video, and we'll see you guys after the intro.
I'm so free.
Alright you guys, so we have a DSR Plus here. This one is brand new. Doug had this perfectly set so that it wouldn't fall. Let's see if we can keep it there. Alright guys, so the DSR Plus is probably one of the most common guns that we get here at Punishers.
You guys like this thing, man. It's popular.
Yes, it is very, very popular. It's probably one of our highest selling paintball guns out of all the guns that we sell.
Yes, when Joel and I looked over numbers a while back, this thing was a heavy hitter.
Yeah, for sure. For good reason. They're great shooters. But there are some common things that can go wrong with them. So I am here to kind of address a few of those things and kind of just show you guys some solutions to a few of those issues and everything else like that.
Now, Joel, my question when you get stuff in, how many of these are like maintenance related things? Like lack of maintenance?
That's a good question. Most of them aren't.
Okay.
Most of them are actually like design flaws.
Okay.
And that doesn't just go for this gun, that kind of goes in general. A lot of the maintenance issues, you know, like is going to be bolt related and just like taking it apart, lubing it, all that stuff. I would say there are a few guns out there that we can touch on. I would say mainly is actually the Mini GS.
Yeah.
If you don't maintain certain things on it. But for the most part, this is just like certain things that kind of go after wear and tear. It's not something that you might be looking for, but it is something that I've noticed through all of my teching of these markers. So we are going to get into it. Going to set the barrel aside here. Obviously there's nothing really that can go wrong with the barrel. First thing that I'd recommend is if you have the DSR Plus to get the thumb wheel. Makes this a lot easier to adjust
that upgrade
this
piece. That's right.
Yeah, and it's it's a cheap upgrade. Definitely makes the marker a lot easier to do and all that stuff. Obviously, that's not a problem per se, but it is something that I do recommend doing.
That's just one of them luxuries.
One thing that is a big pain in the butt from the factory is trying to get this turned.
Yeah, you usually see people using like a coin or like a
Doug,
small
can you
wrench.
go grab me something?
Yeah.
Real quick here, like a key. Do you have keys in your pocket?
Actually. Yes, I do.
So guys, you can either use a quarter, some keys, whatever the case may be. If you go right in the middle there, it's too thick. I usually either use a key, a coin, or you can use the die multi-tool.
Look how easy that was.
To turn that, and it does get easier with time with this grip. So
It's just really tight tolerances out of the box.
As far as the grip goes, one thing that you're always going to want to pay attention to is if you have a DSR Plus, is that when you do slide this in, this has to be on the bottom portion here, and that when you slide it in, there's two tabs that go on right here, and then there's one at the front. The front one always falls into place. Can you zoom in on that, Doug?
Hold on.
So the front one isn't usually the issue, but I will say these two side ones here, they can get worn and everything else like that. So when you're putting your grip back on your gun, make sure there's an actual little groove right there that it goes into. Make sure that you're hitting that. Jeez, oh Pete's. Okay. All right, next guys, a few things that I've noticed. Not so much with the bolt system. For the most part, if you're just going to maintain your bolt system and lube it and everything else like that, the bolt is pretty strong. It's colored O-rings and all that stuff, and you have your bolt guide in your case. So really not many issues with that. But there are some common issues known. Some of the O-rings on the solenoid spool, those can go. As well as the regulator and the grips here. So one thing that I am going to do is I am going to take this marker kind of halfway apart here and show you guys what I'm referring to. Yep. So we're going to pop this off here. Same thing on the other side here. A chief complaint of the DSR Plus with use is that the efficiency starts to dissipate on the DSR Plus.
Really?
And there are a few things that you can do about that. I would recommend a lot of the issues with the DSR Plus can be eliminated if you get the IM Pro kit. Okay, so first and foremost,
Best $90 you'll spend.
yeah, I would definitely recommend getting the DSR Plus IM Pro kit because it replaces the solenoid spool. It also replaces portions of your HPR that I'm going to touch on here in a minute. One thing that I'd like to mention is if you're ever taking your marker apart, their set screw here, you're going to back that out and your trigger is going to come out. One thing that I've personally done, as well as seen quite a few markers that have come through the door, is that this spring right here, which is a unique size of a spring, I've tried replacing this spring with other springs, and it's very lightweight. There's not a lot of tension there, and it's very hard to find a replacement. So that means that you got to wait for Dye to send you one. So definitely be careful when you take this out, because this spring, if you have to take the trigger out, that spring can go and fall out, and if you lose it, then you have to replace it. So that is one issue there. And then if you have any issues with efficiency or anything else like that, the solenoid spool is also an issue that some people have. I am going to take this apart and just kind of show you guys the location of the solenoid spool and all that jazz. I'm not actually going to take the solenoid spool out, but if you're having efficiency issues, it's usually coming from one of two places. It's either coming from your solenoid spool or the isolator plate O-ring in your HPR, which I'll touch on after I show you guys the solenoid spool here. Both of which, those two things get replaced with the IM Pro kit. Alright, so I'm going to just kind of wiggle here. There you go. And so what you would have to do to access your solenoid spool, which lies in right here in your solenoid manifold, is take these 4 screws out. Those come out, this comes apart, and then you have to detach your solenoid pilot with the 4 little Phillips head screws right there. And be very careful that you don't strip those. The silver portion detaches from the blue portion there, and then you can actually push your solenoid spool out, and you can maintain your O-rings or replace those spool O-rings. They're very small, very, very difficult. You cannot replace them with a regular size O-ring. They have to come specifically from Dye if you're having efficiency issues. I would recommend just spending the $90 and getting the IM Pro kit once again. But some people, if you want to keep it stock, you can actually take that solenoid spool out. It looks kind of like a rod, and what you want to do is use a very, like a dental pick, get that O-ring or get that solenoid spool out, and then replace it with a new one. And you have to make sure it's almost like a washer. It's very thin and it's round, and you have to make sure that it lies flat the entire way, otherwise it'll cause leaks and wear and all kinds of other issues. So if anybody really wants me to show that to somebody or show that to you guys on YouTube, I can do that one day.
Got a comment.
What's that?
Got a comment.
Yeah, got a comment, and you know, let us know if that's an issue. But the easier thing to do would just be to replace the entire jalopy there. Okay, so that's kind of the main thing when it comes to, you know, being very detailed within the marker. Another thing that I like to point out is, before we get to the HPR, is that your actual power button here and all that stuff, if you ever have to, if this plastic portion cracks, you actually have to replace the entire thing with the OLED rebuild kit. That can be supplied either by Punishers or Dye, whatever the case may be. We do have those available. You take this little screw out, this pops out, and you can put a new plastic plate on, but you cannot purchase the plate separately. And then you have to make sure that your joystick is properly sitting in there. I've actually teched a few of these DSR Pluses and M3s, where if the portion of the board, which is right here, if that portion of the board isn't sitting in there properly, when you go down, it actually goes up, and vice versa.
Ooh.
So there's like a little prong that comes out of the board that goes in this little silver piece right here, and it has to be inside the silver piece. If it's not inside the silver piece, then you can have issues with trying to joystick one way or another, and it doesn't do it. I actually had a customer that came in the store, was like, my eyes won't turn off, and I actually took the joystick out and realized that his board was fine. It was just a matter of that this little piece right here that goes over that was not in proper position, so I put it in proper position, and we were good to go from there.
Interesting.
So that is an issue as well.
So now you're getting to the HPR, right?
Oops. Yeah, so last but not least here, we're going to take the HPR apart. 2 screws here. On both sides is the same size Allen key, and I think it's the same screws that attach the frame to the body of the gun. Okay, now this is your HPR. This HPR body right here. If you can't unscrew it, you can also use an Allen key at the top there. That's actually milled out, so that fits an Allen key. And you can see I broke it right there. Obviously wouldn't have been very easy to do that with my hands. Now with this, if your leak is coming from the bottom of the reg here, okay, so if the ASA is attached and you're having issues with a leak coming from here, you're going to want to replace this O-ring right here, which I believe is a number 7. You can look on your diagram there. You're going to want to replace that. Okay? Now, if you're having issues with efficiency, most of the time, I've never had to replace the O-ring on the piston here. You can pull this out here. I don't think I have any pliers. Here. There you go. Okay. Most of the time, the O-ring on the piston you don't have to do anything with. If you're trying to repair a leak, it's most likely not from that. Okay. I haven't had many issues with that. But what I have had issues with, and what Dye has told me before, is if you're having efficiency issues, this is called an isolator plate. This pulls out. There is a tiny O-ring on the inside there. You can see that yellow O-ring.
Oh boy.
You got it, Doug?
Yep.
That little guy right there can cause issues with efficiency because that's what creates the seal around the head of the piston there. Okay. So you can either replace that, once again, the piston, the spring, and the isolator plate is all replaced with the Ion Pro kit. So that is one way to fix the problem, or the other way to fix it would be to just replace that O-ring. I'd suggest coming in from the bottom out there, taking an O-ring pick, getting in there, and then the difficult, tricky part is trying to get the O-ring back into place, and that just takes vigilance to try and get that back into place. Doug, you got any questions for me?
No, man, this has been pretty in-depth, and I'm glad that we're getting in close here to show people how to take it apart, how to put it back together.
Sure.
Really kind of getting into how many screws. There's only 1 screw on each side, right? It's honestly pretty simple to get to.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, like this is a relatively simple design. There's not really a lot of things that can go wrong with the DSR Plus, but those are common things that I've kind of seen with this marker. When it comes to common things, the only other thing is, and this hasn't been so much an issue with the DSR Plus, but with the regular DSR, there was some issues with like the gun just cutting out and everything else like that, power-wise.
Oh.
And that ended up being the battery harness. But the battery harness on the DSR Plus seemed pretty solid. I personally have not had to replace any of the battery harnesses or anything else like that.
Okay.
When it comes to the bolt, guys, honestly, I haven't really seen a lot of issues with the bolt system.
Is the bolt part of the Ion Pro Kit replacement stuff? Is there
there's a portion on the back of the bolt that's replaced.
Okay.
But that's not something that is a common issue. So the things that I pay attention to bolt-wise, if you're having an issue, if you're having a leak from the bolt, is these 2 guys here. I believe they're size 13s, I want to say. There's an O-ring on the back of the bolt. I replaced that.
That's the actual bolt itself. That's the moving piece.
That's correct. And then there's a 17 on the inside of the can, the orange O-ring right here. I'd also replace that if you're having issues with, leaking coming from the bolt, from the chamber.
Would you say that's good to do like once a season anyway?
Yes, I would. It's not a difficult thing. Once somebody's done it like once or twice, it's not difficult to do.
Nope.
You just have to really, the big thing is having the right tool, which is simple as going to Walmart and picking up a dental pick.
I literally have a kit of like 4 of them.
Yeah, and that will definitely help you guys when it comes to that. So I will save that from putting all that together, but there you guys have it. That is common issues, common things I've seen with the DSR Plus. Overall, very trustworthy marker, very reliable marker. Great shooter. Once again, one of our most popular sellers.
One of the softest shots on the market, man.
But if you guys have any questions or anything else that I didn't cover, if you're having a weird, uncommon issue, please reach out to us or comment on this video and we'll try and address the issue. But off the top of my head, those are the main things I can think of out of the DSR Pluses that I've had to tech. And yeah, so with that, guys, I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you like this troubleshooting series of videos that we're doing. And yeah, if you guys ever need anything DSR Plus, head on over to the website. We'll see you guys soon.
I'm so free.